In this video, you will learn the standard technique for deploying Pleasant Hill Goshen Fire and Rescue progressive hose lay packs. Note that the specific techniques you use on a wildland fire to deploy hose will be dictated by conditions, and that deviation from the way this is described in the video may be necessary. To begin deploying the progressive hose pack, the firefighter goes to the compartment where the pack is stored, puts the pack on his back, and grabs a 100-foot trunk section of 1.5-inch hose with a gated Y at the end. While the firefighter is getting the pack ready to deploy, the engineer starts the pump on the brush truck and gets ready to deploy the pack. The firefighter gives one end of the trunk line, the female section, to the engineer, who connects it to a discharge. Meanwhile, the firefighter prepares to deploy the hose forward and stretch it out to its full 100 feet. Note in this section, the firefighter is using a technique where the roll is placed gently on the ground and the male end, which has a gated Y on it, is walked out. This allows the roll to neatly unfold, deploying the hose line forward. This technique is not advised if water needs to be sprayed prior to reaching the full 100-foot section of the hose. The engineer deploys a protection line for the protection of the vehicle. Once the first 100 feet of hose has been stretched, the officer calls for water to be sent to the gated Y. Note that water can be sent to the gated Y as soon as the full 100 feet of hose has been stretched out and the gated Y valves are in the closed position. The firefighter now pulls the blue tab, dropping the first load of progressive hose down by the gated Y. The officer deploys the first 100-foot section of 1-inch hose for fire attack. Note that in this section, the deployment technique is used by unrolling the hose and rolling it away from the direction where the fire is. This allows the hose to be stretched and charged prior to being dragged into an area where it would be at danger from fire. The firefighter deploys the 1.5-inch hose outward using the same technique as used prior. Which technique you use to stretch each individual roll of hose will depend on the situation on which you are deploying the pack and should be determined by the officer. Once the firefighter reaches the end of the 100-foot section, they can call for water to the officer. Note that in this shot, the officer is very slowly opening the gated Y. It is important to not open gated Ys extremely quickly, as this can trigger the low pressure cutoff switch on the pump and actually kill the pump engine. The firefighter now deploys the second load from his progressive pack. These sections of hose differ from the first in that the 1.5-inch section has a nozzle at the end instead of a gated Y. The firefighter deploys the inch hose using the technique where the hose is rolled behind the fire and prepares to advance it. The officer advances up to the stretched hose line and gets on the nozzle, calling for water. Remember, when sending water, always open the gated Y very slowly to avoid dropping the pressure at the pump panel momentarily and triggering the low pressure cutoff switch. Starting from the pump panel, you see that we have 100 feet of 1.5-inch hose with a gated Y at the end. This is the trunk section that was taken from the same compartment as the progressive lay pack. To the left of your screen, you'll see that the 1-inch hose at this location was never charged. It is a good idea to deploy the hose out and have it ready in case the fire changes direction and you need to put that line in service. However, there's no need to charge a line if the fire is not currently at that location and you don't need the hose line at that point. At the second gated Y, you'll see that the firefighter left his pack behind as there's no longer any need for him to carry it, and that there was a section of hose that wasn't used that is available near the hose line to be added if need be. At the end of the hose line, the firefighter and the officer are making a fire attack. This concludes the progressive hose pack deployment video. For information on reloading the packs, please watch the video on reloading and restoring these packs.